Good morning, Year 5. Welcome to Week 4's Monday lesson of shared reading. I'll just share my screen to start off with. Okay, we're going to be practicing the same skills that we were learning last week, so just with a different text. So you'll find that the learning intention and the success criteria are exactly the same as last week's. So our learning intention is that we are learning to understand a text more deeply by making inferences and identifying evidence from the text to support these inferences. To be successful, we can read and understand the text, identify the purpose of the text, think deeply about what we are reading, and use evidence in the text to make reasonable inferences. So remembering that an inference is what is not stated in the text. So an inference is something that is not stated within the text. The reader has to use clues from what is stated to work out what is not stated. To work out what is not stated in the text. And when we're identifying evidence is directly stated in the text. So today's lesson is purely, I'm just going to read and understand the text. So I'm going to be showing you a think aloud, trying to unpack what the text actually means. So today's text is all about coral reef biomes. So it's another text that looks to me, as I'm looking at the photos, it's got a map in here with red dots. Looking at some of just the little headings that I have in bold, I think this is going to be an informative text about coral reefs. And knowing what we were doing last week and what we're studying in geography, I can use my background knowledge to predict that this text is going to be informative, teaching me about another biome, the coral reef system. Okay, I'm going to start reading. I'm going to see whether or not my prediction is accurate as I read. Okay, known for their extremely high biodiversity. This word biodiversity. I know that diversity, or if something is diverse, the base word, it means that it has a great variety. Or there's lots of different things. That prefix bio is a prefix. And I see it in words such as biology, biography, biodiversity. And when I think about biology, it's the study of life. If I think of biography, that's about someone's life. So that prefix bio must mean life. So if you have a great variety or great diversity, lots of different things of life, must mean that there are lots of different living things in a coral reef biome. So biodiversity must mean that there is a large amount of different living things in a coral reef. So known for their extremely high biodiversity, coral reefs are formed by living stony coral polyps. Now, I can read that, stony coral polyps. I might need to look at the picture to try and work out. I'll use my mouse, try and make a connection between the words and the picture to help me. And I think these stony coral polyps must be these kind of stone-like things that you can kind of see in a reef system. They kind of don't move. Like I can picture, I've seen lots of things in the past about coral reefs, and I can picture the things that are waving. But I know that stony, this word stony, if I think a stone, it's stuck. And these things here don't look like they're moving. So I think they're the stony coral polyps that they're talking about. And coralline red and green algae. So there must be like red and green algae. Algae is like, or people call it algae or algae, and it's a living thing, kind of like a moss type organism that you see in water. So there's algae and coral polyps. Over thousands of years, a limestone structure builds up in warm, clear, tropical or subtropical water. So if it's tropical or subtropical, I think of rainforests. They're tropical or subtropical. They're really warm. So straight away, and it says here, warm, clear. So I'm thinking it's not polluted water. It's got to be clean, clear water that is warm. It's estimated that at least 100,000 marine and animal species. Okay, I'm going to stop there because this links straight back to my biodiversity up here, high biodiversity. So it's estimated that at least 100,000 marine animal species from every living phylum live on tropical reefs, including 1,500 kinds of stony coral. This is now supporting what this says, that it is high biodiversity. There is 100 at least, so more than 100,000 marine and animal species from almost every phylum. Now, phylums are tricky. Phylums are actually like animal kingdoms or genus species. So if you've got a phylum, it's, so phylums, I'm not going to get really into it because again, you'll learn this about in high school, but it's a level of classification in the animal world. So if I think of a phylum, there are 9 phylums. And what it just means is every animal can be put into a phyla or a phylum. That's probably not going to help me. Just for now, I'm going to just look here, but if I wanted to look more into it, I would need to go further into it. But there are things like 36 recognized animal phyla, so phylums. So there are things like every animal fits into one of these categories. There are worms, there are spiders, arthropoda are spiders, arthropods, mollusca, mollusks. There's lots of different ones. But I think all we need to know from this is that there are almost every phylum, so every different type of living thing, whether it be worms, fish, like clams, probably sharks, mammals. Mammals is a phylum. All different species and different things can be found in a coral reef. So it's not just fish. You're not going to get just mammals. You're not going to get just frogs or amphibians. You're going to get a range of different, from almost every living group, a range of them live on tropical reefs, including 1,500 kinds of stony coral. Okay, this is a map here. One thing about this text is it doesn't caption this map, so I need to infer to work out what it actually is telling me. And I think these red dots, the red dots here are the coral reef systems. And I can see in Australia, there's the Great Barrier Reef running down Queensland. But I can actually say that there are reef systems around Western Australia as well. And all around different parts of the world, there's a huge concentration of reefs here, different reef systems. So coral reefs are found in shallow water where sea surface temperatures range from 68 degrees Fahrenheit to 97 degrees Fahrenheit. Here's our American measurements again. So 20 degrees Celsius to 36 degrees Celsius. I know that that's quite warm. That's really warm water. 20 degrees to 36 degrees is really warm water. More than 90% of the world's coral reefs occur in the Indo-West Pacific biogeographic region. So Indo-West Pacific biogeographic region. If we're talking about where they are located, I can use this map to help me. And if I look at where most of the reefs are, they're in this area here where my mouse is. And so that must be the Indo-West Pacific biogeographic region. That's a mouthful. Reef systems can also be found in West Atlantic, East Atlantic, and East Pacific Oceans. Most reef species are endemic to the region in which they are found. So an endemic. Okay. Most reef species are endemic to the region in which they are found. So I think that means located within. They're stuck within that region that they're found. So for instance, I know that we can find clownfish in our Great Barrier Reef. So if most reef species, so not all of them, but most reef species are endemic to the region in which they are found. That means I think that they're kind of they're unique to that region. So if you have Australia and you can find the clownfish in the Great Barrier Reef, might mean that you may not be able to find the clownfish over here. But remember, that's just an example because it says most reef species, not all of them. I'm using I'm guessing, I'm making an educated guess. Coral reefs have existed for some 100 million years, but most living reefs originated or renewed their growth at the end of the Pleistocene era, about 100,000 years ago, when sea levels rose in response to melting continental ice sheets. So when sea levels rose, so I can say here, continental ice sheets, they were melting. So ice sheets were melting, the sea levels rose, and then they were able to start renewing their growth, or they started there. So there are three basic reef forms developed. There are fringing reefs, which they build out from rocky coasts. Barrier reefs have lagoons lying between them and the coast. The growth occurs on the outer seaward edge. So the Great Barrier Reef is an example of this. The Great Barrier Reef stretches for 1,400 miles. There's our American term again. So that's 2,253 kilometers off the eastern coast of Australia, is the world's largest. So we've got the Great Barrier Reef is the world's largest barrier reef. The Belize Barrier Reef comes in a distant second at 135 miles, so 217 kilometers. I like how it says distant second, must mean it's a very far away second. Look at the numbers, 2,253 kilometers for the Great Barrier Reef, whereas it's only 217 kilometers for second place. So a very distant, far behind second. Atolls, they are completely encircled lagoons. No dry land occurs within the lagoon. One of the largest is the Aldebaran Atoll in the Indian Ocean, north of Madagascar. The Windward Reef front is exposed to waves from the open ocean that bring a constant supply of plankton and nutrients. So plankton are little sea creatures. And so most growth of polyps and coralline algae occurs there. The inner lagoons have soft sediment floors and are a prime habitat for seagrass meadows and the wealth of animal life they host. So if you've got a wealth of something, if you've got great wealth, it means you've got lots of money. So if this is a wealth of animal life, it means there's lots of animals that they host. If you host a party, you have people coming into your house. So that's like they're saying that the coral reefs host, they have lots of animals coming in to their place, the coral reef. Okay, and that's the end of our text. So we're just looking at reading and understanding the text. Tomorrow we'll be looking at what its purpose is and how I know that. Thanks, Year 5.